Hi, everyone. My name is Amber Lynn. I'm an author, a life coach, and a community director for Pathway to Hope. Pathway to Hope is an online community for support for women, founded by Patrick Doyle, co-founded by myself. Speaking of, here with Patrick Doyle, he is a best-selling author, a counselor, and an expert in emotional and spiritual abuse. So welcome again today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So what the heck is a church narcissist?
Seems like an oxymoron, doesn't it? How can
Yes.
somebody be so spiritual and Jesus-like and harmful at such a high level?
Yeah.
Um, well, the reality is that this is actually kind of rampant. This isn't a small problem. It's a very large problem. And what you find with the church narcissist is someone who uses spiritual abuse as a way to cover up their own duplicity and control other people. And they are really good at image management, and they're really good at helping people feel and see what they think they want them to. But in actuality, they're actually very self-centered and they don't take responsibility for anything. And there are a lot of theologies that support that. The leader cannot be questioned. The elder cannot be questioned. The husband cannot be questioned. He has the last say. Right. So if they believe that they're the last say and they believe that they're God's man, what are you going to say? How do
Mhm.
you address their unhealthy behavior? And I've been a part of so many church situations where I was brought in to deal with the pastor's behavior and whatever. I've seen so many very, very damaging situations where pastors are duplicitous and lying about it. And the congregation, interestingly enough, a lot of times uh, doesn't want it to be true. So they have their own denial. They don't want to lose their leader. They don't want their church to be, it's really similar to that of a marriage. Like people don't want the family to be broken up. And that's understandable. But if we don't look at the behavior, we're not loving the person who's being destroyed, and we're not loving the person who's doing the destroying.
Mhm.
And so a church narcissist is somebody who's going to use scripture, they're going to use their position, they're going to use anything they can to foster their control and power over you. And sometimes they might do it in a really nice, smarmy, sweet, Jesus-like way. But in the end, you feel not cared for. In the end, you feel controlled. In the end, you feel like they don't care. And the truth is, they don't. And the care is feigned. So
Mhm.
as your gut starts to tell you in a church environment, this person isn't safe, listen to it. I don't care what somebody's biblical degree is. I don't care what their experience is. I don't care how many prayers they've uttered. I don't care how many Bible verses they've memorized. I don't care how many college degrees they have. None of that matters. What matters is how they treat other people. And if you start to see that that person is unkind or duplicitous, pay attention to that and don't submit to the authority roles. Like I have to not say anything because he's or she's whatever. No, speak the truth and let it have its way. But if you're going to have safety in a spiritual environment, you can't be in denial about the behavior of the leader.
Mhm.
And this is something that why I think churches are actually places that narcissists thrive is because of that denial and the unwillingness to confront the behavior because of the hierarchy. And then on top of that, you have the theological belief structures that support someone not saying anything.
Gotcha. So some of the common traits, like you mentioned, they use scripture as a weapon instead of comfort.
Yes. Yep.
They demand obedience and loyalty to them.
Right.
They create like an us versus them kind of
Yes.
mentality. Can you talk a little bit more about what that
Yeah.
is?
Well, so, if I can get you on behind my cause, whoever I'm saying is the problem, whatever, I'm making it's me against them. And, in a theological sense, there's the good against evil, God against Satan. There's a lot of that happening. Okay. In some cases, that's actually healthy. We want to deal with the issue. We want to take care of somebody who's doing evil. We don't want to support that. But what happens when it's somebody who has a really nice looking outside, veneer? They look like the very nice, loving, caring person, but they're not. And this always shows up. And one of the ways you start to see when someone is a spiritual narcissist, one of the ways you'll know is when you don't agree. If you start to disagree, or you start to not comply with whatever they're saying, you will find out. Somebody who's loving is not going to harm you because you disagree.
Basically, they shame or silence anyone who challenges their authority or.
Correct. Correct. And they don't have any accountability generally. They are the top of the heap and no one can say anything.
Well, not only that, but I've heard this too, is like they present a public image of kindness, but are dismissive, they're cruel, or even manipulative in private.
Yes, absolutely. And maybe we should do a longer video on this sometimes, but when you start to listen to their language pattern, the words they use, how they use the words, you start to feel and sense, oh, okay, there is a manipulative angle here because of the way they're using their words and what they're trying to represent. Okay. Instead of honesty or genuineness, it's image management and it's all projection. So
Gotcha.
I would say, I've talked to thousands of people in lots of churches where this is going on, and I've been brought in to confront the leader. And somebody with the level of denial that is then justified by the Bible, that spiritualized denial, is the worst. Those people generally are not going to change because they believe God is on their side. And then the only reason why you're upset is because you don't understand the truth the way they do. So then there's no recourse. So it's really a dangerous reality. And if your instinct, your gut, your spirit is going off, pay attention to that. That's the thing that will lead you out. But I've talked to lots of people and I've encouraged them not to try to change the mind of the pastor or the leader or the church narcissist because that's a waste of energy. Instead, spend your energy caring for yourself and creating boundaries to protect you from that behavior.
I imagine this really impacts people that are in the church and surrounded by this kind of leadership.
Yes.
What
Huge.
are some impacts that you've seen?
Well, some of the impacts are, one is it makes you doubt your faith.
The confusion.
Confusion, like what is true, which thing is true, or what thing should I follow. The other thing is that there's divides that start to happen. So relationships get destroyed because you either are behind the person or you're not. You either follow them or you don't. And then I've seen this in churches all the time. Splits happen all the time because of this stuff. Because there's a leader who's a narcissist, or there's a person within the church who's not a leader but's a narcissist, and they're spinning people up and they're slandering people and all that stuff. So anytime you have someone with the level of denial that narcissists have and the extra level of denial that a spiritual narcissist would have, you're going to have harm. Relationships are going to be harmed. Safety will be harmed. You won't feel safe to be yourself. You won't feel safe to be honest. What you're going to feel safe to do is comply. So if you're feeling a strong urge to comply, that's a sign that it's unsafe.
Gotcha.
And, each situation has its own very high levels of nuance.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, do you see a lot of guilt and fear in the people that have to go through this and tied to maybe spiritual consequences?
Well, if someone is using biblical principles or spiritual ideals or the Bible to shame you or to convince you or whatever they're doing, what it does is it creates confusion because all the people I've talked to, their spirits are saying, no, I don't think that's right. And then all of the, uh, you know, teaching and leveraging and manipulating and gaslighting and spiritualizing and rationalizing. And so now the person stops trusting their spirit, which is a sure way to not be healthy. So think about it, you're going to church to improve your spiritual life, but instead what you're getting is shut down and into a compliance mode. No, your spiritual life should be one of discovery, not compliance.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
If you found this helpful, we'll create a free resource for you in the description below. Feel free to click on that link. And until next time. All right. Thank you.
You have.
Bye.